Way In, written by Taylor Reed. Something sweet makes its way into the room. I smell vanilla. I spy the source from the window where I sit. Tousled by the wind, fragrant, in bloom, autumn olive. Now I hear rumbling. If the low buzz continues, I'll assume it's pollinators clouding the shrubs outside. But if it crescendos and then disperses, it's traffic. Eddy School Road is growing a bit busier. Months ago, the rumble meant industrial trucks, hauling logs, laying salt, picking up trash, and carrying products from place to place. This time of year, the list grows to include the trucks hauling boats, campers, buggies, and more. Assessing the seasonal influx is simple for some. Locals, good. Those from other places, bad. That idea makes its way into other contexts as well. Most of the feedback I received from my last writing, The Removal of Hands, concerned invasive plants and our response to them. People care about the topic, especially now in May, amidst the uptick in native plant messaging. I bristle a bit. The framework stating that native plants are friends, while plant plants are neutral, and introduced and or invasive plants are enemies, leaves something to be desired. First, this writing won't offer a tidy list of recommendations. The topic is too complex for a small container like this, and it won't be framed as a debate either. This writing is an invitation. And it's not an invitation to an exclusive club. Every long-standing culture on this planet has worked within the bounds of this invitation. It's an invitation to long cultural work, which in this instance is an invitation to move from the questions of, is this plant good or bad? And how do we make this plant go away? To the broader quandary, how do we live in this place? The autumn olive's honeyed scent drifts along haphazardly, but the plant's presence in this area itself was a product of intention. From the 1940s to the 1970s, soil conservation districts throughout Michigan included autumn olive in their plant sale offerings because of its myriad benefits and strengths. It's a hardy shrub that works well as a windbreak, offers erosion protection, food for wildlife, and more. If you aren't familiar with the plant, well, you probably are without realizing. It's all over the place: roadsides, yards, farmland, city lots, forests, and meadows. It's considered invasive in this area, generally understood to mean a plant that was introduced to an area and poses a threat. So, what makes autumn olive, this choice plant once promoted by local agencies focused on conserving natural resources, menacing? Well, it crowds out other shrubs, trees, and plants. In fairness, it also fixes nitrogen in the soil, improving it for other plants that need it. But that means more resource competition for the plants that can thrive with less available nitrogen. In other words, plants we consider native that are more accustomed to the soil conditions. Before throwing out the plant, remember that grazers and browsers alike will eat autumn olive. Don't convert your hayfields to autumn olive just yet, though. It's quite thorny. A tromp through a thicket of the brushy stuff can be a bloody trek, which, on the other hand, is a boon to plenty of birds and wildlife. The pokey maize offers protection from wind and predators and plenty of food to boot. Autumn olive berries are nutritious for humans and more than human alike, much higher in lycopene content than the tomatoes generally turn to for antioxidant benefits. Taste one early in the fruiting season and prepare to pucker up. They'll grow sweeter as they ripen. Eat them fresh or in a jam or jelly, process them into fruit leather, freeze them, or even make wine. Those prolific berries are key to the seed dispersal through which the shrubs travel and root in disturbed landscapes. Find some of the shrubs towards the end of winter, and within a few months they'll be dressed to the nines in their crimson berries, offering a harvest that doesn't call for full sun exposure, optimized soil conditions, amendments, fertilizers, or grafting, and it's notoriously difficult to kill. In short, it's a mixed bag. Still want it gone? You can treat it with triclopyr or glyphosate. Cut the main stem and dab on some herbicide. Use care. Heavy herbicide application aimed at invasive eradication might hobble ecosystems more than assist. It doesn't address why an invasive is filling a niche, so it can easily result in long-term repetitive chemical applications, continued disruption, and increased herbicide resistance. The potential for exposure and subsequent buildup in soils, waters, and bodies is concerning. I don't mean to say that the need for chemical treatment doesn't exist. I do mean to say that frequent, widespread, and haphazard applications should be more heavily scrutinized. The cynic in me says that the reason we aren't more concerned has something to do with corporate profits. That's a different essay. Back to autumn olive. You can pull it manually, and rotationally grazed landscapes are promising for crowding it out passively. Still, both are time-consuming labors of handwork that call for repeated visits. Take heart. Slow and repeated work of the hands is one of the features of societies with staying power. Those rooted in place, those who have managed to sustain long-term interactions with landscapes without depleting them, and those who have managed to meet their basic needs over time. I've been shaped by Mary Cecip Ginusa's "Plants have so much to give us, all we have to do is ask." The Anishinaabeg Ethnobotany Tome's premise offers plenty on shifting one's perspective on invasives, natives, exotics, etc., from a simple judgment of what's good or bad to trying to understand better what each plant might be for and how it fits in its place. In many instances, she writes, if we, as individuals and communities, learned how to use and harvest certain invasives, their spread would be kept in check. Think autumn olive as great forage for goats, or the human health benefits of eating currants, the nutritive offerings of cooking with garlic mustard, the medicinal value of kudzu, thatched roofing from Phragmites, firewood and building materials from black locust, etc. What if seeing these different living beings kindled a sense of gratitude, responsibility, and provision, albeit involving some handwork and veering from cultural norms, rather than the twofold state of terror and pressure to eradicate? I don't mean to say that if we learn to use invasive plants more frequently, all problems are solved. I will venture to say that paying attention to what's around us, regardless of invasive or native characterization, considering its usage along with how it interacts with the rest of the biotic community, seems like a positive step towards long-term mitigation and better relating to the places that we're in, as they are. Again, eradication by hand means repeated manual labor, unless the reason for the niche is addressed. Cue broken record. Addressing that niche is another topic deserving its own attention. That isn't necessarily a bad thing. It involves being and working outdoors, learning more about plant identification, and potential opportunities for harvesting, as mentioned above. This kind of slow work, with sobriety, intimacy, and care, calls for cultural shifts relating to consumption, resource extraction, and how we, as humans, relate to the rest of the natural world. Engaging in that won't look like quick binary judgments of good versus bad plants, or this person figured it out and this one didn't, or laying blame on folks without attempting to understand the circumstances they're working from. There's a whole tangle of complex interactions out there. I hope you find yourself on a unique path leading towards growing in place. Maybe it's lined with autumn olive. Maybe that's not the end of the world. Maybe it's a way in.